What's going on, Earth 2 novice, enthusiast, and everyone in between? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode where we are going to be discussing Earth 2, of course. Now, this is going to be an update video. It's going to be very quick, and it's about extracting my money from Earth 2 and what has finally resulted. Now, after slightly over 2 months, I have finally received my money. Now, I did have a previous video where I was kind of giving you guys an update as to what was going on. I was getting a lot of questions, and I was waiting for that money to come through initially, and then eventually it was just taking so long that I wanted to give you guys an update just to let you know that if you're going through an experience like the one I was going through, you were not alone. However, I do have good news. My money did finally come. Now, which method did I use? I used the original method, which was basically transferring it to my bank. In fact, right when I started that transaction, it was just after Shane, the CEO of Earth 2, mentioned that TransferWise, who's recently changed their name to Wise, you can still find them under TransferWise though, he was mentioning that that was an alternative route and he was expecting it to be a bit faster. However, I wanted to kind of A/B test the bank account method and the TransferWise method. I started with the bank account method first, and I just recently initiated the TransferWise method. I'm assuming it's going to be dramatically faster. Most people were saying that they were seeing like a 2-week lag time. Unfortunately, like I said, my experience was a little bit over 2 months. There were some unusual things about my request. There was definitely a breakdown in communication, but I do think that they've resolved it, or they at least have the resolution in motion. If you have seen my videos discussing some of the updates and announcements that Shane has mentioned, Shane Isaac, the CEO, one of them was the fact that they are expediting the withdrawal process through a couple of different methods. Number one, they're reducing the amount of scammers and the ability for scammers to basically make these fraudulent transactions, which just means that they have less transactions that they're going to have to manually go through. They've also started automating the process of verifying transactions, so they're able to more easily detect whether or not your account has engaged or had any transactions with any of these fraudulent account or these scammers accounts. And they have also launched some new options as far as withdrawing the payment. So not only is there now TransferWise instead of doing the bank transfer, but you can also do a withdrawal, or in the near future, you'll be able to do a withdrawal directly to your credit card. And I've got another video on that, so check that video out. And I actually read you the announcement and Shane's description of what's going on. So in any case, things should be better. I did want to be honest about it because, I don't want to sugarcoat anything. If I'm having a bad experience, I'm not going to, go right to Yelp and complain to anybody. I don't go right to the Better Business Bureau. I, as an entrepreneur, as someone who's been through a couple of different startup projects and through a few different software development projects, I was pretty patient, I think. I definitely tried to communicate with them. However, the communication process wasn't super smooth. That's another thing that they're actually improving. Another one of the announcements that Shane made, and I did a video or two on this, is they're implementing a ticket system, and I believe they're using Zendesk for their ticket system. And this is going to help because if we have a shared inbox, like at credits@earth2.io, that's the email address that you'd be sending your requests and your banking information, all that other jazz. If you've got multiple people who are working from that inbox, you might answer the first email, and then Bob answers the second email, and I respond to your email. Bob's on shift, so he responds, and then when I get Bob's email, I respond, and then Steve's on shift. So now we've got all these different people who are taking little pieces of this conversation. They have to look back through the thread, and heaven forbid, you send multiple emails that are outside of the email thread. It makes it even harder. And not as many people are familiar with running a CRM system and note-taking and all that kind of organization as you may think. So long story short, long story long, hopefully this is all improved, because with the ticket system, you basically have that one reference point where all of the communication will be truncated and put on the ticket itself. So anyone who's having that conversation with you would be able to more fluidly continue the conversation and know where the last person left off, what you were asking, how to answer it. So some of my issues were by the time they responded, I asked them if I could switch it to a different bank, and another one was asking for them to up the amount. And again, this was after days or weeks of them finally responding saying, yeah, we're initiating it, should have it in 72 hours. And then I was like, well, can you up the amount to this amount? Can you change it to this bank? And then they told me no, and then someone else told me yes. And then when they finally confirmed the transfer was going out for like the second or third time, they kept on saying, it's coming out shortly, it's going to be shortly, you're going to get updates shortly, that kind of stuff. When they finally were saying, okay, it's on its way, I was like, well, you told me one of the reasons it was delayed was because I upped the amount, and yet you just told me the original amount is what's coming to me, so that was incorrect. And then you also told me that the transfer had already started, which is why you couldn't switch my bank information, and yet the transfer obviously hadn't already started because we're, at the time we're coming up on 2 months into this, and you're still telling me that, I'm seeing that the amount hasn't even been deducted from my account. Sure enough, finally, I did have the amount deducted from my account after they told me it was on its way. Then when I really started feeling confident was when I saw the notice from TransferWise saying that money was headed its way. And I was confused. I actually thought the money was going into my TransferWise account and not to my bank. So I was like, okay, that's pretty cool of you to do that. And it turns out TransferWise was just the facilitator. So it went from Earth2 to TransferWise to my bank. Didn't actually stay in my TransferWise account. By the way, if you are looking for a fast way to get money out, TransferWise, like I said, I definitely think it's going to be much faster, much easier than sending it to your bank, sending them the SWIFT number and finding the IBAN number and all that other stuff. Set up a TransferWise account. I've got a link in the notes below that'll give you a free transfer up to like $600 of transfer fees or whatever credited to you. So check that out. And yeah, that's the way I would recommend, because definitely the bank was a very long and arduous process. I wasn't sure the money was going to come through. I was pretty confident. My fear was not that this was a sham or a scam. There was just a lot of stuff that wasn't making sense. And my biggest fear was somehow the wires got crossed and they'd mix up an account number or something, and the money would be going into somebody else's account, and then I'd have to figure out how to coordinate communication between my bank and Earth2 and whatever intermediary, which turned out to be TransferWise, was involved with the situation. But thankfully, that wasn't the case. As I've mentioned to you guys before, and I say this over and over again, don't invest what you can't afford to lose, and also don't invest any money that you are going to have to pull out and use. I was basically taking this money out just to see how long it would take. Now, probably just going to put it right back in, and I've got another round of withdrawal coming through TransferWise, and I will give you guys an update as far as how many days that took. I think we're a little bit less than a week. I think tomorrow or Friday will be 1 week since I initiated that, so I will give you guys an update as soon as I see that money hit my account. So far, the last correspondence was them asking for my TransferWise account number. I was under the impression that they could just do it with the TransferWise email, so shame on me, although the instructions aren't super clear. And in fact, if you look up the instructions now, last time I looked at them at least, they still don't tell you to have the IBAN number or the SWIFT number ready, which is what you would need to send it to your bank. And then the TransferWise information, they don't have any instructions on how to do a TransferWise withdrawal, or at least they didn't when I checked it just a few days ago. So if you do go down either one of those paths, be prepared to have all the information with you. If you're doing the bank withdrawal, again, I suggest TransferWise, but make sure you look up either your bank's SWIFT number or the IBAN number, IBAN. I think it stands for International Banking Account Number. So that means saying number after it would be redundant. It's like saying ATM machine. It's an automatic teller machine. So in any case, skip the bank, use TransferWise. Make sure you have the TransferWise account number set up. To have that, you're going to have to do a little bit of verification, so don't expect to do it like in an hour. Set it up ahead of time, make sure it's ready to go, verified and all that jazz, so you are able to get that account number unlocked, pass it on to Earth2, and like I said, you want to have all the information ready so that you're not sending them an email and then they're emailing you back days later telling you what you missed, and then you're sending them another email, several, just have it ready. Even if they don't have it all listed there, I've told you everything you need. You should be good to go. Speaking of good to go, I'm going to get going. And until the next episode, I look forward to helping you navigate this marvelous, miraculous, mystical, majestic money world of Earth 2. Have a great day. Or whatever.